Hi everybody, Lady Steam here. Welcome to project number 3 in the Kinetic Cutter Club. I'm so glad you're here for this session. This project is one we think is a lot of fun. It's a card holder with moving gears on it, and the idea is you have a place to put your cards, put cards down if you want to. It'll also hold a little square stack of post-it notes if you wanted to put a little stack of post-it notes in front of it. Or you can put other people's cards as they come into your life in front of it. Either way, it's kind of a nice size. It's easy to customize, and we're going to show you a little bit about how we designed it and how we design these kinds of projects in general, as well as how to assemble it once you've cut it. So I'm so happy you're here, and let's get started. Now that you've seen what we're going to make, we're going to start talking about actually how to make it and the files that you've got. As always, our link will take you to the list of all of the files, and what we've given you is the Corel version of the file in both inch and millimeter format, DXFs of the file in both inch and millimeter format, SVGs of the file in inch and millimeter formats, and last but not least, a PDF if that's the best format for you. So I've already opened my file in Corel, and we want to take a look at it here and talk about the pieces of it for a moment. What you'll see is our box bottom and back, and the back has the 3 holes in it for the gears that we're going to use. The bottom has the 2 slits in it for putting in our divider. And then we've got 2 long sides, not slides, 2 long sides. Now what you'll see is this piece here with the little curve down is actually our middle divider, and it's got little slots down that will go into the slits in the base. So one of the things you may need to adjust is you may need to adjust the size of these boxes to make the wood fit better depending on the size of your wood, the thickness of your wood. This is set to 0.12 inch wood. If your wood is thicker than that, you may want to either sand the middle piece or make these slots a little bigger. You can also here adjust where those are. If you don't like the size of the 2 different compartments, you can simply move this forward and back to adjust the size of the 2 compartments. And you know you can do that because there isn't anything sticking out on the side. If we'd stuck something out on the side, then you would have also had to move the slots on the side, and that gets a lot more complicated for a simple beginner project. The other thing you've got here are 3 gears. Now the center holes on these 3 gears are set to 0.112. That's our 440 size hole that we like when we're putting a 440 screw through it, and we're assuming you're using 1/8 inch wood, so that we need a nice 1/8 inch hole here. And then the pieces in the back I've made 0.1 to give you some screw in ability so that things don't move around any when you do it. So our box size here is 11 by 9. If you've not scaled it correctly, you'll be able to tell that pretty easy. And you're all set to delete the pieces you don't need off of your drawing. Get rid of all that extra stuff. And then I'm going to drag this down to the bottom left for my laser because that's where it cuts on my laser. And then I'm ready to cut the drawing, and we're good to go with cutting. Now I do want to show you a couple of other nice tricks to be aware of when you're working with graphics programs and you're working with building boxes. So we have a couple of really fun websites we tend to use, and I always find them by just doing a search for laser cut box generator in Google, and there are lots of samples there. The one I typically use is this boxdesigner.connectionlab.org. It's based on a drawing a program that used to be Raoul at Connection Lab, and the Raoul box maker is probably the easiest to use. There's also boxes.py, which has some great projects and some great building things in it you can do. So using this tool, you've got a design it option here, which will just design your box at the size it is, or you can go into advanced options, and there are a couple of things you want to adjust. You want to look at adjusting your material thickness. These are assuming it's 3 millimeter pieces, so it's a little bit thicker than 0.125, and my wood tends to be a little thick, so I'm going to use 0.125 here. I also can adjust how long the notch length is. And if you let it automatically create it, it'll build a great box for you. But if you want to make them longer or shorter, you can adjust those here. And then depending on your laser, you may want to specify a cut width if you're building really tight boxes and you want them to be pressure fit. And you'll notice there's some guidance here about what values make sense. And then, do you want a cover on your box, or do you want your box to be flat on top? And we actually started this project with using one of these programs. Now, we'll come back in later projects and show you how we build screwed together boxes from these designs. But I wanted to show you what the start of this was. So if we go back to our drawing, what you'll see is I really have a box here that's about 2 inches tall and is about 4 by 4, and that's where I started with my inside dimensions, and then I customized the pieces from there, and I made the top back taller, and I added the additional pieces. So box designers are a great place to start if you're looking to improve your projects, and you can always do fun things with boxes. There's always great box gifts to make, but we think this is going to be one of your favorite gifts to give away anyway, since it's a nice fun little piece to make. So now go cut your project and come back to watch the video, and we'll show you how it goes together. Now that you cut your piece, here's what we're going to see. You're going to see the back, the bottom, 2 sides that should be mirror images of each other. The 2 front pieces, again, are going to be mirror images of each other, and our middle piece. And you've got lots of adjustment choices, as I mentioned earlier. And really, the pieces that thickness-wise matter are the thickness of those 2 holes in that slot, because this piece of wood is going to need to go in it. Now, we actually had to sand this after we cut it because I had made these slots just a little too narrow to go in loosely. But that's actually kind of on purpose because I want this to be nice and tight as I glue my project together. Now, I'm going to start with putting the gears on. As always, sand, sand, sand. Make sure it's good. This is intended to be the inside back, or you can put this as the other side back and make Steamy Tech show up when your cards aren't there. Completely up to you. Or maybe you've customized it, written your business name here. However you want to do that, you've got lots of flexibility. And I'm going to start with putting on my gears. So the intent was, when I designed it, to put the big gear in the middle. So that gives me the 2 little gears, and it gives me space over the top to spin it. So, I've got my glue. One of the things I brought in with me this time was some scrap. That gives me something to test my glue on, make sure it's ready to go when we're ready to use it. I also brought in for this assembly some Instaset. You can get it at hobby stores, and it's really nice for instantly drying super glue. So I'm going to start with one of my little gears here and put it in, and you'll notice that I can't just force it through. I'd have to push really hard to do that, so I'm going to use my screwdriver and screw it in. Give myself just a little bit of space over the top of it. I'm going to come back to this big gear and add it. And again, I made these holes small on purpose. If you're using different size hardware, you're going to have had to adjust the size of the holes when you cut it. And finally, our third one right here. And again, I've got a nice smooth spinning piece all ready to go. I'm going to flip this over. And I'm going to put a dot of glue on my screw and put the nut on the top of it. Make sure it still spins nicely, and repeat that same thing with these two other pieces. Doing this yourself, you can certainly use Loctite to put those screws on. There's nothing wrong with Loctite. It just means having an extra tool. Now I got some extra glue sticking out here. It's going to be in the way and annoy me. So I've got two choices. I'm going to use a paper towel and just wipe off the excess glue. I could also spray it with that Insta-Set piece to get rid of the worst of it. Get that out of the way. And the only reason I put the gears on first is it makes it a little easier to put them on when I've got some flexibility with the piece. So now we're ready to do our assembly. And we're going to want to put this back on like so. And this is why I brought the spritz in. Now, I know I want to put glue on that surface and on the bottom of that surface and that surface and that surface and that surface, and I want to glue them together. And since I don't have 4 hands, that would be nice, but no 4 hands for me, I'm going to use this spritz, which instantly dries super glue, and now that side is on and actually really sturdy. Now, I could have done this a couple of different ways. I could have put inset screws in it. Like I said, we'll teach you how to do that in a later project. But I just wanted to get it on easy and fast. And now we're ready to add our 2 sides. Remember that they're mirror images of each other, so the finished sides can go on the outside, or you could put the finished sides on the insides, depending on what you did when you decorated it. And again, I'm just going to lay it down and do glue here and here and along all the jut out tabs. That's the easiest way to make sure you get it on all the right places. Now on my back I need a little bit of glue too. So I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of bits out here. And I'm going to set this up. If you put spritz on it, know that the spritz on the back is going to dry really fast. The glue that you put on the back is going to dry really fast. So you want to make sure you put it together really quick after you add any glue to the back. And now I can do the other side that same way. So it's kind of how I like to assemble boxes. If you don't have a lot of experience, or you have small hands, get some help. There is no shame in asking for help, especially in this kind of tricky assembly. So again, I need to get that glue in that piece of wood there right away since I've spritzed it already. And I'm going to spritz that side and get that all to dry. And my glue is just instantly dried and not a problem anymore. And that's why we love using Insta-Set. But what you'll see, you can now tell, this is really just a box. It's a square box that we extended this piece on. We reshaped the top and cut this down to a size we were happy with. Now, in the front, if you're going to put a stack of cards in the front, obviously, you need a way to get your fingers in them. So we've done the same thing for this front piece and made it cut in half. So I can just put some glue on here. The other thing you will start collecting as you do projects is scrap wood. We have a huge collection of scrap wood, and if you're in the Bay Area, please feel free to reach out to us if you ever want little scraps of wood. But you are going to get little scraps of wood. You saw I used that one to check my glue bottle, but you can do all kinds of things with scrap wood. So don't assume because you used a piece of wood in scrap, then you have some scrap that you just have to throw that piece of wood away. You're going to have lots of things you can do with it. And I have simply and easily put together my box. Now, I didn't put the divider in it yet, but I know I've got space for it, and I know where it wants to go, so now I can add the divider. You could have put it in first. I figured I would save that for the last thing. Sometimes it helps to put the divider in first because then you know your sides are going to have to go straight and you're not going to have to push out on the sides. I want to make sure that goes all the way flat. And I'm done. And I have assembled a box. Again, I might want to put a little spritz on this front piece to make sure it stays nice and glued and all assembled properly. But there you go. It's that easy. The fun in these boxes is what customization can you do. And now that you have the drawing, you could put other big gears on it. You could change the shape of the front. You can write your names in the corners. You can change the shape and the size of the box a little bit. Anything you want to do, you can now adjust with the drawings. Have fun. Until next time, can't wait to see you again on Project 4.